The Renault Kwid, a vehicle whose reputation precedes itself. That would be because when the Kwid was released in 2016, it was met with less than enthusiastic review from the motoring press and industry experts here in South Africa. To be perfectly honest, they weren't wrong. The Kwid is entry level. But all is not lost though, because the Kwid actually does have quite a lot to offer. Let's start with the first thing, and that is that the Kwid is the cheapest new car that you can buy in South Africa today. Comes in at a grand price of 137,900 Rand. Narrowly pips the Mahindra KUV 100 to the title, because the KUV 100 comes in at 137,999. What's $100 between friends? Well, it's actually quite a lot. So let's go and take the Kwid for a bit of a drive, and we'll discuss the ins and outs of the Renault Kwid. Now, I've been driving the Renault Kwid for the last few days, and I found myself continuously asking myself, why? Why would Renault, which is well known for making some of the best sports hatches and family-sized SUVs in the country, why would they make this? The Renault Kwid lacks a lot of refinement. You just have to look at the build quality and the materials that's being used to see where they have sort of scrimped and saved on the build. If we talk about the engine, I think it was last seen powering my wife's kitchen mixer. It's a 1 litre 3-cylinder petrol mated to a 5-speed manual transmission. It delivers about 50 kilowatts, 91 Newton meters. It is painfully slow, and that right lane needs to be avoided at all costs. And then we get to the suspension. It is sprung in such a way that it feels very unstable, feels very top heavy. You go around a corner, it feels like it's going to tip over. And yet, when you get onto anything resembling a bumpy road, it's going to rattle your fillings loose. The car is very, very light, and because of that, it feels like it's being blown across the freeway. And that's why I said that right-hand lane is out of the question. I have managed to get this up to 120 k's an hour. That's it. It's not going to go any faster than that. And then we get to the reason why so many of my colleagues in the media industry have slammed this vehicle, and that's the safety factor. See, when the Kwid was released in 2016, it had a safety factor NCAP rating of 0. Now, Renault has countered this with all the latest models now being fitted with a driver's side airbag, a seatbelt warning alarm, and ABS. It's not a bad thing. Now, I will say this though, I do quite like the interior. It's quite nicely styled, albeit fantastic plastic. I do quite like the styling. It's a nice two-tone material on the seats. The seats are very hard, they're firm but supportive. You know, you have everything that you need. There's central locking, aircon, and then of course there is the 7-inch touchscreen infotainment system that has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So it's actually everything that you need as a new car buyer. So to answer my question as to why Renault would make this vehicle, I did a little bit of research and discovered that the Renault Kwid is not sold in any other market except emerging ones, that being markets like South America, Mexico, China, Sub-Saharan Africa. These are all countries that desperately need mobility. People, of course, don't have a lot of money to pay for it. Enter the Renault Kwid. Here in South Africa, it is the cheapest car that you can buy. And then to sweeten the deal, they will give you your first year's insurance paid up in full. And then on top of that, you have a 3-year maintenance plan and a 5-year warranty. I mean, that is a really sweet deal when it comes to new car buyers wanting to get into their first car. It's very, very lucrative, and you can sort of understand why Renault sells 1,000 of these a month. That is really astounding. So it does really explain a lot. The car is aimed at people who don't particularly care too much about build and aesthetics and drive. Merely, they need to get from point A to point B, and they need to do it well within their budget. And the Renault Kwid offers exactly that. Well, I think it's safe to say then that the Renault Kwid is aimed at commuters. It is 4 wheels and a motor that will get them from point A to point B, and for that whole package to be given to them at a really, really good price. The Renault Kwid is not a particularly good drive. Would I buy one? Probably not. I would be tempted to have a look at something from the Suzuki brand, the Celerio maybe, or maybe splurge out completely and go all the way up to a Datsun Go. The Kwid might not be to my liking because I enjoy driving. But as that old saying goes, every pot has its lid. And that means, for somebody out there, there's a Kwid.